Alright guys, my name's Adam Van Ord and you are watching Live at 9:45 hosted by me, Adam Van Ord of Van Ord's Customs. This week I am interviewing a guy by the name of Burt Melchner, and if you haven't seen any of Burt's work, you totally should check it out. He is a master with the metalcraft and just does overall tremendous scale builds, tremendous scale designs, and I can't wait to speak with him and see if he can give us some other stuff, some other information that maybe we haven't picked up from other people along the way, and learn about a little bit about him and what's going on. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about the fact that this is a live show and I appreciate all of you logging in. I will do my best to address any comments or questions that come up throughout the show, but just remember that it is a live interview and I'm going to try and keep things moving forward. With that, I also ask that you tend to try and keep things PG in your comments so that we can be respectful of everybody else that is inside of the viewing and what's going on here. If you are watching this later on YouTube, because I do upload all of these episodes later at a later date on YouTube, please comment, like, whatever it is. I will absolutely address your comments over on YouTube as well. So, last but not least, let's talk a little bit about some of the other places that you can find me and what's going on with Van Ord Customs. First off, check out our website at vanordcustoms.com. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Van Ord Customs, and then lastly, I do have the YouTube channel where this video goes, and then subsequently all of the other interviews that I have done are over there as well. But without further ado, I'm going to see if I can't get Burt in here, and we'll get this fired up and we'll begin our interview. So, bear with me, guys. Alright. Hopefully my audio is close to the volume I'm looking for. I always seem to swing and miss on that one. Hey,
I think you got me.
how's it going?
I'm doing good. You?
Good. Hey, I think this is the first time I've ever guessed the right number of clicks on the speakers, and it's not too loud or too quiet, so.
It's good stuff. I'm excited about that.
Fair enough.
What's going on? I see a bunch of people on. That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yep, it's
Hello,
filtering
everybody.
in. We got a good turnout. We got like 21 people right now, and thank you guys all for tuning in, and I appreciate everybody who's tuning in after the fact as well. And like I said, we'll try and address any of your questions, concerns, or whatever as we go down through, if I can remember them and pick up where we're at. So,
Very cool.
all right. Let's begin this thing by tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So 40-something. My wife's always got to remind me. Married, 2 little girls, Amelia and Marley, hence the A&M garage. There's a kid. Hold on.
There you go.
That's Amelia. Say hi.
Hi.
You wanted to say hello?
Yeah.
What are you? You're the what in A&M garage? The A? The A.
Oh,
Yeah. So, all right, get out of here.
Okay, fine.
See you. So that's Amelia.
Nice.
It might be the first that you had a kid in, a kid there.
I think it might be the first. I'm not gonna lie. I was just racing
Good.
around all over the place because my son wasn't going to sleep, so I just set up everything that I needed to do in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, so look, married, 2 kids. My kids are around doing stuff with me all the time. Live in Mahopac, New York. It's about an hour north of Manhattan. What's nice is that we could be in Brooklyn for a concert. We could be here in the woods on the lake. I can be in the deepest woods, hiking and, rock crawling with the kids and the family. It's a good little spot to grow up. Grew up here and been here ever since. Not going to leave. My wife's from here too. So, like I said, just about an hour north of Manhattan. It's a good spot.
Yeah, I would think so. You're out, but you're also close to the city, so you get like kind of the best of both worlds deal going on.
Exactly. On a Friday or Saturday night, within an hour, we could be downtown Manhattan.
Fair enough. I like it.
It's good stuff.
So let's switch it over and talk about some hobby stuff. How long have you been in this hobby?
Really long time. There used to be this place called the Bazaar Mall in Mount Kisco, and they had this hobby shop. I was a little kid, and I could remember there was a hobby shop, and in the window was one of those Tamiya trucks, and it was like that was like the coolest thing ever. And then going to boat shows as a kid, they always try to sell $7 a week, and you get this truck if you pay for it for 5 years, And I always wanted one of them. That was back when they were polishing the frames and chrome and everything. It was from way back then. But it's been, you know, a little bit of that. Here's the M in A&M Garage.
Nice.
Hello. This is usually how it goes here. It's a lot about the kids and everybody. All right, now beat it. Get out of here. Get out of here. You get what? Go. Watch on the computer. Bye. Love you. Go. Bye. Yeah. A&M Garage. Million Marley.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been, you know, looking at it since then. When I was a kid, I had I think it was a Hornet, grasshopper. Always wanted the frog. Never got my hands on one. But yeah, I've been around the RC block a little bit, and then I moved to some nitro cars, some HBI Savage, and I've always had them. I've been into nitro helicopters, electric helicopters, flying drones, aerial photography, all that stuff. But lately, it's been a lot of the RC rock crawling.
Yeah. All right. What or who got you into the hobby in general, man?
I don't know if it was anybody specific. It was always, I kind of saw them around, and I was always kind of searched them out. But then this guy, John Gallinari, opened up a hobby shop in our town.
Okay.
Gallinari's Hobby Shop. And since day one, I think I was number 1 or 2 number customer. And I'm still a good customer with him, and we do a lot of stuff together. So he's sort of kept me in the hobby for a long time, whether it's been drones or helicopters or the indoor and outdoor nitro or electric cars for racing. Now all my RC stuff comes from him. So he's sort of kept me for all my stages of RC. He's been my guy.
I like that you say stages of RC, because that's one of the things that I find. And although mine's almost solely revolved around the crawling, I find myself like falling in love with different aspects of the hobby, whether it's driving them, building them, running them, taking pictures of them, doing videography of them, whatever it is. So I like that you alluded to the fact that you kind of bounce around in there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good, you know, the RC thing is great because you can put on a set of goggles and you can fly like you're in an airplane, and you don't have to worry about falling out of the sky. You can, you know, go rock crawling without, you know, a $30,000 trail rig, truck, trailer, and, you know, a big garage to put all that in. You know, you can go and experience all that. You can go for a hike with the family and bring an RC car, and if it breaks, you could strap it on your back, and you're going for a hike with a couple extra pounds on your back.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of everything that the RC hobby has done for me in my life. We do a lot of camping and outdoor stuff because there's a remote in our hand, and my kids have a truck. I mean, one of the big competitions that we went to down in New Jersey, my kids built a SCX-10 2 to have for them. And when they were fighting over the remote at this competition down in New Jersey, I said, all right, it's time to build another one. And that's when we did a TF2, because I was going to build another one of the same thing. So I built a TF2, a Leaf truck, so I had it in my fleet. And that's when we started doing more of the bolt-on stuff that you see now on A&M Garage.
Gotcha. And so I was just checking it out right before I hopped on here, and I did see that you have some bolt-on stuff for the TF2.
Yep.
Care to allude to that just a little bit before we move on in our line of questioning that we got going on here? Or?
Yeah, listen, I started messing with the TF2, and I know a bunch of guys that run the scale trucks, the leaf spring truck, and I thought that they were really cool, but it was just a little bit too scale. I built a scale truck, and it was just it wasn't boring, but it was kind of like I'm driving down a trail. If I was in a full-size truck, I wouldn't drive that kind of truck in the woods. I would want something with bigger tires, a little bit more suspension, a little bit more aggressive. So I said, let me take that TF2 and really make it what I want. So I raised the transfer case. I got that out of the way. I made myself a skid plate. I reversed the front shackles on it. I did all this stuff, and people started asking me for it. So here. So now if you see a TF2, that's what the bottom looks like. And we package it all. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We make everything. It's all packaged. My wife does all the packaging. Looks pretty neat. Sometimes she signs it, sometimes my kids sign the papers.
I love it.
But you know what happened was I started doing these TF2s and looking at them, and I had so many different trucks, whether it be SCX10s or Toizuki setups. But what I found was that a TF2 has a motor way up in the front, low, transmission forward, transfer case in the middle, runs overdrive. I put Curry's underneath it with the JEC leaf spring mounts. I got a full flat high clearance skid underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
So for a TF2, this is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I started to make these parts that go up in the front, my skid plate, my sliders, and it's become a pretty good hit. And then from that, I sold my Class 2 truck, and I built a new truck for K&K, and I built it, pinched, bob, the whole thing. It's not like, not like, perps work, but it's, it's decent.
Right.
So that's my full comp TF2. It's just a TF2.
Yeah.
Guys just give me crap because, well, he's running a aftermarket chassis. He's running this. He's running that. So he's got a cheater truck. I said, all right, now I got a TF2. You can call it what you want. It's just a TF2. It's TF2 transmission, rails, everything. But I went to JEC and we built high clearance links on it. I put my skid plate on it. Motors forward, low, overdrive, and it's pretty neat. I think I tied for third at K&K out of, I don't know, 100 and something trucks.
Right.
First time out. I had to change the knuckles over to the B-tube knuckles after that because I had zero steering. But, even with that, that was a fun competition. But, I have that little trophy, and I felt so bad. K&K was an amazing event. I know you couldn't make it out there.
Yeah.
But those guys that ran Class 2.5 in the rain, in the mud, in the middle of the night until like 3 o'clock in the morning, those are the guys. I mean, they were up all night. My trophy, it's nothing. I was there. I had some fun. It was those guys that were awesome. I mean, it was all night with the live videos, and it was cool to see. But those guys were they killed it. It was not about winning that event at all. It was seeing those guys, the dedication.
Right. So, all right, man. If you weren't in RC as a whole, what do you think your hobby of choice would be?
So I spent a lot of time in the lake. If I wasn't RCing, I think we'd spend more time on the boat, more time surfing, more time doing a lot of that stuff.
Gotcha.
If it was a different RC thing, I think it would be more flying drones, race drones.
Yeah. How much of that have you done? That's something I've never delved into at all. It seems like it's probably pretty intense once you put those goggles on.
I've only done that a couple of times, and the small ones like this are really cool. It's funny. I have pictures on Facebook. I practice by chasing my kids, and if I run into them, it can't hurt them. But they run around and I chase them, and that's how I build my skills with the remote. But I have a Phantom that I fly, and I do aerial photography, and I take pictures, of that stuff. And that's pretty cool, but it's slow, and I try to drive it fast, and it's just not the right setup for it. So
right.
I think soon I'll get a race drone, and I'll mess around. I'll probably get it right before the winter, so I can't fly it in the winter, and then the technology will be outdated, by the time summer gets here again.
Right. I mean, that's the wise choice. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'll do that.
Yeah. So when it comes to your scale rigs, are you a big tire guy or a small tire guy?
Yeah, big tires, 100%. And I know that's what nobody says.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I'm going to watch a competition, I'm going to look at a red dot car. I'm going to watch, a full-length truck, red dot car, climb up the most insane obstacles. You watch King of the Hammers and the $10,000 bounty hill that they had. It was a red dot car that made it up that. And it was, full-length truck, low slung, big tires, great, awesome truck. I'll drive those trucks all day long because the lines that you run are just unbelievable. So when I go out with the crews around here and I say, we're going to go up that over there, or let's check this little line around the side of that mountain that nobody's seen, it's pretty cool that we can, go up that stuff. And it's neat what we can make these little trucks do. But then you take
Right.
that and you go out with the crew with the small tires and you say, now I know how to choose different lines. I know where to put that tire. Now let me really make this small tire truck do that. So I think it's the big tires. It's not just the same lines as a little truck. It's really, really aggressive lines. It's reaching up,
Yep.
just getting that one tire to catch and a little wiggle on the remote and either using dig or all those things to get those trucks to really work.
Yeah, and so you just alluded with the dig statement to one of the things that makes Class 3 so much fun is that you get to do things like dig and rear steer, and I consistently have a lot of. It doesn't matter what truck I drive. I consistently have a lot of fun when I run, but I am always floored when I can use my rear steer like climbing up something, and it'll move the back end around and it'll hit a line that like I didn't even think was possible. So yeah, it's just a whole nother way of driving.
I've spent a lot of time in the seat of a 1-1 crawler. I was in high school with I had a 66 Jeep with a straight frame, a small block, 1-ton axles, and 44s. That's what I drove every day. So, that to my brother's trucks with Ultra 4 Racing. He's got a bunch of different trucks that he's had. So I've always been around big tire trucks, and I enjoy that stuff, and that's sort of what I build now.
Nice. So I'm going to make a prediction in my head, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to see my prediction, but brushed or brushless?
No, I'm all brushless.
Yeah. That would have been my guess. I mean, when you think big tires, you go big power, and then I see the rock bouncer, and I'm like, it's probably brushless.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the build. So if I built a real scale truck that had a hard body and I didn't want to kill it and I wanted to keep myself under control, I would run brush motor. In fact, the Unimog that I built, that was my real scale truck, my first scale truck, that was brushed. And when it goes back together, it'll be a brush truck. But everything else, a lot of horsepower, as much as I can.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, I'm the same way. When I hit that trigger, I want to like rip the wheels off. Like that's what I want, and immediate, right now. So
yeah, if you look at a long time ago when I first got into it, I had indoor 10-scale cars, and I was running a 6.5 in my Wraith with an RSX, a Tekin RSX. And it was great, but when you were going down a hill, as soon as you touched the throttle, it freewheeled before the drag brake hit, and that's because it was a 2-pole system, and it took a while to figure out that you needed a 4-pole to be able to get that hold. And now they're putting in the active hold into the ESCs, and now with Castle and the Mamba X, it's such a great setup. I mean, I run a 2850 in my Class 2 truck and a 1900 in my Class 1. I run a 3800 in my Bouncer. But I can literally be going down a hill, and as soon as you touch the throttle after being on drag brake, it doesn't release. It just goes right to drag brake. And then you got the Mamba X, where if you're going down a hill and you just want to roll down it, on my remote I got the dial, so I could turn my drag brake up and down on the Mamba X. There's a lot of things that have really been amazing in this hobby in terms of advances. That's one of those things that's just a huge advantage. I mean, you're always looking for that right amount of drag brake. If I want to go racing around, if I want to go and go down that steep cliff, or if I want to glide down that and not have to worry about touching the throttle, that's a huge advancement.
I agree. So I was at a comp last winter, and someone had one, and I was playing with it, and immediately I just went straight to my brain, and I was like, man, I can think of so many times when that would be like the most advantageous, tiny little piece of technology in a comp that, and I still don't have one. Like I just need to step up my game, I guess. But I could see it's
a nice touch. Tekin has something similar. People are doing that. It's really impressive what they're doing with the stuff now. And then you get the John Holmes of the world, or the Holmes Hobbies of the world, that are really taking that technology and even advancing it more. It's neat to see the electronic side really go to that next level. You got Reefs RC doing crazy stuff with their servos. Castle coming out with these new motors and ESCs with this next level of tuning. Tekin doing the same stuff. It's neat to see. Batteries are next. I think the LiPo batteries are going to see a revolution next.
Ooh, that's a nice prediction. I haven't heard that point.
I think so.
Yet.
I think, you know, a lot more people are using lipos across the board, whether it be in cell phone technology or in RC cars or in real cars. So I think the battery world is the only piece that's keeping the world from going more to the electric side. So I think you have more and more people focused on finding that right technology that's safe and that can be handled, stored, and last a long time. And it's, you know, I think that's next.
Yeah. I can see your point, and it makes a lot of sense, man. I totally follow you. What was your first scale like build that you did?
I'll show you.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping for.
So this is my Unimog. It's got a big smash in the hood and the roof, but that was my first real super scale build. Class 1. A lot of people called it a cheater truck, but was my first thing. I plastered A&M garage on the side. It had the full scale stuff, Mad Mike scale accessories, the lights, the underneath lights. And what was cool is that those, I mean, portals are cool, but they're kind of, you know, that was 2017. I don't know if Vanquish, I don't know if Dan's still awake, but you know, we were doing portals back in, you know, 2017. I worked with Mad Moose, and we came up with these, and we went through some testing, and those were really cool. Super scale Volvo axles. So we did those front and rear, and I ran the heck out of this truck. Tons and tons of trails and competitions, you know, hundreds of batteries. But that was this was my first scale truck, and it was fun. Definitely fun.
I hear you. And you know, I'm happy to see that it's like still hanging around, and you run it for that long and you still have it. Like, that's how I am, man. I hardly ever let anything go. So it's revamped or rechanged or whatever, and I just keep going with it.
It's hard to lose them. I mean, so this is my first cage I ever built. I've done, I think I could answer it. I've done about 60 cages. A&M garage, and this was my first one. I did this at our family business, at our garage. I did this cage, and it was just I don't know, let's go build something, and I built this, and this is really what started A&M garage. So I kept it.
Right. All right. How many trucks? So we're talking about the builds. How many trucks have you built up until this point,
man? So it's hard to say. I mean, I've done little over 60 cages, and a lot of those cages I would take apart. Like, this was my class 2 Unimog. It's kind of like, I don't know, a funny looking truck. But this is my other Unimog. I had 2 Unimogs for a while, but I would literally take the drivetrain out of this and put it into another CBE RC Fab chassis and build a truck. Build a complete truck, make sure all the dimensions and everything were right. So for most of those 60 trucks, I took that thing apart and built another truck. But I did it. I did count. I think I'm up to about 20 full builds.
Okay. Like
from scratch. You know. Yeah. This is the new Vanquish truck. If you haven't done one yet, it's unbelievable. It's that good. And then, you know, like I said, about 60 cages. Nice. So a lot.
Yeah.
I did buy, this one started out as a SCX-10 JK that I bought. It was a kit, and I don't think I told my wife that I bought it. But anyway, it was a JK. I still have the body someplace, and yeah, I started with that, and then it just kind of steamrolled from there. Now I just sort of buy the parts that I need, and that's it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm to the buy the parts that you need stage and then do whatever you feel like you want to do. So I have to ask, we're talking about building stuff and building trucks. And so when you've entered the hobby and you've had some fun and you begin the process and you're like, hey, I want to begin building something. Yeah. What do you think are some of the necessary tools to begin that process?
I'm going to find it. Hold on. The 2.0. This tool right here is, you'll use this nonstop. Almost every bolt is a 2mm in this hobby.
Yep.
There's tons of people. Get a good one. And then the next thing you do is you buy this. So this is a K&K monster bag. You know, I still get the people, you know, your kit didn't come with the 4th 3mm, you know, bolt. All right, I'm sorry, I'll ship you one out. And they don't have one. You go to Dan, you go to K&K and you spend $30 or $35 and you get this. It's the best thing ever. When you're making stuff, you need to have the extra stuff, the extra tools. So besides that, a Dremel. So a good set of tools, a Dremel, some hardware. I think that's really what you need to get started.
Right, and I would agree with you, man. And I love that you brought up the hardware, because so when I first started doing like some of the custom stuff with my crawlers, I didn't have access to like a bulk hardware. I didn't know it existed. In fact, I'm not sure it did at that point in time. Like really, yeah. I don't know if K&K was a thing then. I don't even remember when all that started. Whatever. Anyway, beside the point.
Yeah, we're here now.
I would go to the hardware store and buy like 4 bolts at a time, and it was a nightmare. And I remember getting my first. Yeah, and I remember getting my first kit and being like, oh, I have everything I need. Like it was amazing. I didn't have to stop every 5 minutes and try and find a new bolt. So
yep, the fact that I can go like this and grab the size bolt that I need, and if that one's not big enough, I can go like this again and get the one that is right.
Right.
You know, I built, you know, as many trucks as I built. That's like the most amazing thing to have.
Yeah. All right, guys, I apologize for the technical difficulties. It's been a while since I've had this many issues. There we go. Man, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've had that problem.
Keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, it's all good. So it was like every single show for like a month. Every single time it would drop out on me, and I don't know. So guys, as you log back in, and if you have been watching or you are watching, just leave it to comments and don't hit all the like buttons. For some reason it boots me. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. Facebook really loves Live at 9:45. So
you were asking me about what my favorite medium is.
Yes.
Metal is definitely for sure. Styrene is great, but like here's my styrene work. I spent so much time trying to get this right, the pinch, the grooves, and everything, and I fell off that slide at K&K and dropped about 3 feet and ripped this fender off.
Yep.
And that was great. And when I painted it, all the paint bubbled and freaked me out. And then when I painted this one, I painted it with a shiny blue and it came out flat. So I don't know. The styrene, the plastic, none of that stuff works for me. So I just I like metal. I can grind it and smooth it and clean it and re-weld it if I had to.
Yeah, no, that I follow you. Sometimes I find myself asking why I spend so much time when I work on a body to like get it smooth, when I know that the first time I run it, it's not gonna look like that. So
yeah. I mean, this one, this is the body. It's smashed, beat, just destroyed. The cage is murdered. It's a great truck, and I spent so much time on this body. I don't know why. It's a good color, I guess. The yellow. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have a thing with yellow.
I was just gonna ask that. The yellow Unimog, yellow Tundra, yellow shirt. So
I had a yellow Wraith for a while too.
Nope. Yep.
So yeah, I'm back to yellow now.
So how do you begin a scratch build? Like, what's the process of starting it?
I start with what am I looking to like what's the gap in my fleet?
Okay.
Right. You know, if I'm looking for a scale truck, a competition truck, whatever it is. But but I kind of have an idea of what I want to get to. Like, I knew I was building a lot of trucks, trying to get the motor forward and have a transfer case. And I said, I'm going to build a Class 2 TF2. And a bunch of people said, you go ahead and do that. And we'll see how it works for you. And it's worked pretty good. My Class 2 TF2, full high clearance links, everything. It is just a great, fun truck to drive. And it's just a little TF2. So it's really filling that void and doing something different and pushing the envelope. And, you know, yeah, it runs my skid plate, my sliders, and, you know, that kind of stuff. But it was really, I knew that truck had a tremendous amount of potential in terms of a competition style truck.
Right.
So I did. You know, I really operate in I look at it this way. There's a super scale world, which I completely respect, and those guys are amazing at what they do. And then you have the scale guys, which, you know, they build super scale stuff and their trucks really work, and that's really cool too. I go to the scale comp. I want a competitive truck that I could drive that crazy line and I can compete against the carbon fiber Lexan trucks, and I can do that. But it's still a hard body, and it's got an interior, and it's got the points, and it's got all of that. But I really want to have that scale competitive truck.
Right. Yeah, and so I tend to lean in that area as well, unless I'm building like a Class 1 or a Class 0 style truck. And those ones I try to make as I don't really care how they turn out as long as they look good. But Class 2, Class 3, like I want it to be competitive. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. So I know that you do a lot of metal work. You said you like metal work. Are you a fan of brazing, or do you do mainly welding, or how are you joining your pieces of metal together?
I take everything.
Nice.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time at a maritime academy at college, and I was stick welding, and I spent time, you know, in high school, and then after that doing a lot of MIG welding. And my first cage was MIG welded, and what I realized was that I couldn't control the filler as much as I wanted.
Right.
So I went to Eastwood, and I got a TIG welder when I started doing, more and more cages, and I've been TIG welding ever since. For people out there that are looking to get into TIG welding, if you're working on the small stuff, you can go to Eastwood and get a not so expensive TIG welder. It's you know, you could use it for heavy grade stuff or small hobby grade stuff, but this is welding wire, and this is MIG welding wire. I use this as filler. So my kids or my wife will come in and they'll cut me pieces like this, and that's what I use to weld with. But it's a great tool. You can get really clean welds. You could just join two pieces of metal together. You know, my stuff, it's strong. It's not the prettiest stuff, but it's really, really strong. You look at somebody like Lou Lee, where he builds cages that are they're unbelievable. And his cages, you see his welds, and they're perfect. You know, all those guys.
Yep.
The brazing thing, I have friends that braze, and they use hollow tube, they coat the joints, and they braze. They blow me away with their skills because they're perfect. And I can't do that. So TIG gives me a little bit of filler, lets me, you know, fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The patience with like the coping of all of the joints is what gets me, man. And then I'm like, it looks good enough.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a ton of respect for those guys that do that work.
Absolutely. Where does your inspiration come from for a build? Like, how do you go out and find a truck that you want to build?
I do I watch a lot of the 1-1 stuff. And then I see what people are doing. What's her name? Joe Pereira. He's part of the Ot6 crew.
Yeah.
His builds are just top notch. I see those things and I send him a PM. How did you do that? He's the reason why I have Toyota bodies, because I saw his blue Toyota body and I'm like, I want that. That's really, really cool. And, you know, it's guys like him that just blow me away. But I look at a red dot car, you know, a 1.1 red dot car, or I look at a Toyota with big tires on it, and I say, I would love to have a big one, but I'm running RC, so let's build one of them. Let's build it RC. You know, Desmond Mooney had a full-size Toyota truck. I thought it was really cool. So I said, hey, I want to build you a truck. Send me a TF2 and I'll build you a truck. And that turned into, we traded off some, I built him a truck. He tattooed my buddy, and, you know, it was that kind of thing. But, you know, I kind of look for inspiration in the stuff that's out there in the 1.1 world, and the guys, you know, the guys that are doing it in the hobby. And I try to build accurate to what I'm building. So, you know, I see a lot of guys that run trailing arms on crawlers.
Yeah.
That looks really, really cool. But you'll never see a slow crawler run trailing arms. Trailing arms are made for fast, you know, down the desert, going through the whoops, dual shocks. You get the trailing arm out, you get the shock moved in, you get much more travel, and that's what the trailing arm is meant to be, and it's for a race truck. So on my trucks, I never run the trailing arms, but when I built the bouncer, I saw Emery Works, the full Emery Works, not Emery Works RC, but, you know, these guys were building this truck, and I saw it, and I said, I want to build that. And the bouncer needs dual shocks in the rear because of the speed that it's going, and the suspension needs that it has. So I did trailing arms, dual shocks, did the whole thing. But that was, you know, that was for that truck. But all my crawlers, high clearance, bent links, and that's my setup. So yeah, I tend to look at, you know, what other people are doing, and I kind of make it my own. Yeah.
I follow you completely. Man, you sound a lot like me when you were talking about all that stuff. So, if there is something that you would never leave off of a scale build, what would that thing be?
So I have two answers to this. One thing that I will never put in a scale truck again is this. It's a doll. It's a doll. And I don't, you know, the scale guys that do it, I had nothing to say. You know, it's fine. But I was in here one day and I took one of these and I cut the bottom of it off, and my kids were in here going, Dad, what are you doing with the doll? Hey, Dad, what are you going to do with that? Dad, can I have that doll? Dad, why are you cutting the legs off that doll? Hey, Dad, can I play with that doll? Hey, Dad, what are you going to do with that doll now? Can we take it? And I'm like, okay. So now I get these things. Where is it? Here, I'll show you.
Yeah.
The Wild Willie drivers.
I was going to ask about the driver for that. I wondered where it came from.
Check that out. So that's the Wild Willie driver, feet and everything. And then I take instead of doing the Wild Willie head, I get these other ones from this guy. I can't find this stuff. I don't know where it is. I got a mess. Oh, here it is. Headhunter.
Okay.
Headhunter. So he makes these cool heads. This one is this is like a mini Desmond. You know Desmond. You interviewed him.
Yeah. Yep.
That's like a Desmond. So
a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But that it's plastic. It's not a doll. My kids don't try to steal it from me. But that's what I'll always leave out. But what I'll always have in every one of my trucks is approach angle. Super, super good approach angle. You know, I'm not building a 2017 JK that I'm going to take on a trail with a big giant bumper and a winch hanging off the front. I'm going to build something that's going to go up to that wall and drive up the wall and go up that crazy, crazy line. So I want my bumper tucked in. I'm going to stuff my winch all the way behind my bumper, and I'm going to make it as aggressive as I can in the front of it when I drive up to an obstacle.
Right. I think that's often overlooked. There's so many cool bumpers out there, and especially like the aftermarket bumpers. A lot of them look really awesome, really scale, but they definitely, like without a doubt, harm that approach angle for sure. So
yeah, I mean, look, if you're building a scale truck and that's what you want, that's great, and they look so good. But like I said before, there's scale and then there's scale comp. I'm going to the scale comp side. So for me, that's what works. But for the scale guys, they got options for those amazing bumpers, and that's what they run. It's totally cool.
Yeah. So I have to ask, when you're building stuff, when you're doing your metal work, when you're doing whatever, are you a precise measurement kind of guy, or are you that looks like eyeball it, it looks like it's spot on?
I try to make it close. I want it to be, I hold the stuff up and I look at it to make sure that it's with your eye, you don't see it and it's off. But my stuff is a little bit off. I mean, even that bouncer, one shock hoop in the front is higher than the other.
Yep.
It's not a customer's. If it was a customer, I would cut it off and I would redo it. But for me,
Right.
It was just something cool to build because a buddy asked me, can you build me a bouncer? I said, I don't know. I said, go see Donald Jenkins, have him build you a bouncer. And I decided to build my own. I had a bomber sitting around with big monster truck tires on it. And I said, let me take this thing apart. Let me build a bouncer cage and see if I could do it. Well, I did it and I'll never do it again. It's just crazy to be able to do that stuff. And Donald Jenkins and all those guys, I mean, Lou's done a couple of them, and
Yeah.
all those guys are they're unbelievable with their skills.
Yeah.
Desmond, stop
Yeah,
liking.
man, I agree.
You're clogging up the video feed.
Right? No, for sure.
Desmond, stop hitting the like button, heart button.
Yeah, exactly. The hearts, the likes, all of that stuff's awesome, but it'll probably drop our video and we'll have to do version number 3. So, do you have any rigs that you haven't brought down to show that you want to show off kicking around back there? Oh, so now we are going to have version number 3.
Wilson.
Thanks, guys.
Dan Hearts, all you guys is the hearts. I don't have anything. I don't have anything else to show, but just my bouncer. Dan, I'm not going to show these axles.
Yeah.
Here. So this is the truck that I built because somebody asked me if I could build a bouncer, and I couldn't. I didn't know if I could build one, so I built this. And it's cool. It's scale. Brian from Exclusive RC hooked it up. Did the full motor in there.
Yeah. These guys are sabotaging your interview, man.
I know. Yeah, that's a cool truck.
So let me ask.
Locked up RC wheels.
Dude, I dig it. Sometimes I think I want to build some kind of crazy tuber or bouncer, and then I look at all the metal work and I'm like, that's a lot of time and effort. So I just don't ever go there. But you said that you look around a little bit in the hobby when you're getting influenced to build stuff. So who are some of the people who are influencing you in our hobby? And if you were to pick someone to have on the show, who would you pick?
All right, so there's a lot of guys. Scott Lemper, Michael Blazer, Matt and Rich from Scale Builders Guild, Lou Lee, out of control with his metalwork. UC Fab, Scalar Fab. Those guys, the stuff that those guys all build completely inspire me. Lou Lee's one of those guys where when I was early on starting, I looked at his stuff and I was blown away, and I could only imagine to be able to build stuff as good as him. And I still see stuff that he builds, and I'm blown away. So if there's somebody that you could have on this show from this world, I would really like to see Lou talk about his builds. I don't know if he's camera shy or not, but he's an amazing builder that, as a guy who welds, I really look up to him. But there's the other side of it. What we do is a 10th scale of a full-size rig. And you look at We Rock and You Rock, all those full-size things that are going on. I think those guys, and if you go to Busted Knuckle Films and you see some of their tech videos and you watch them talk about anti-squat and link lengths and tire size to separation and, how they put the shocks on the trailing arms. And, when you take a shock and it's your ratio of if it's straight up or hanging down and the amount of droop that you get with that, and shock oils. I mean, I run 5,000 weight diff oil in my shocks. 5,000 weight. People ask, it's hard to ask a question, what shock weight do you run? well, what tires are you driving? What's your anti-squat? What's your, what truck are you in?
Right.
What foams do you have? There's a million questions to know, but I do know that my trucks don't go 100 miles an hour in the desert. They're not a 10 scale race buggy going 40 miles an hour on a track. They don't need 30 weight oil that's going to flow through that piston super fast, like that. When I go to an obstacle, I want my truck to hit that obstacle and go like this. Slow. Creeping over stuff. 5,000 weight diff oil goes through that piston slow, and it slows down the momentum of your suspension. So the trucks look they look like they're in slow motion. They're not like this. So you don't have to run really, really stiff springs to keep your truck from flopping. You could just slow down the suspension, but still have that suspension work. Right. So all of those things, if I had to pick somebody to be on the show, somebody in the 1-1 world that might be able to talk about the tech tips of setup and when to run certain suspension, or, how to do that type of stuff. I think that would be cool.
That'd be super cool. I wouldn't even know, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't even know who or how to begin that process of trying to contact someone. I'd probably get laughed right off of my message. So, but
there's a lot of guys out there that do 1-1 and 10 scale stuff, which would be cool. But I'm sure that you can get hooked up with somebody.
Yeah, and so that's a good avenue to explore. I hadn't thought about trying to make the leap to the 1-1 and 10 scale portion of what's going on here, but that's sweet. I will explore that for sure. So I have to ask, you didn't use the wand. I did the first time. Sorry, I'm reading comments like I'm not supposed to. But anyway, how do you operate on a budget when you build your trucks, or are you like the truck gets what it needs kind of guy?
Oh, my wife is watching. Are you crazy?
Right, so
are you out of your mind? What are you new? Come on.
Hey, my wife knows about all this stuff, so hey.
It's always a budget. It doesn't cost anything. This is nothing.
Yeah, it's all free. I just repurposed everything.
What else do you want to know?
Forums or Facebook, and why?
Facebook all the way. I tried to do the forums. I built the C-Max Blazer, totally scale. I mean, it had melting ice cubes falling out of a cooler in the back with beer cans, like completely scale. I did one post on the forum, and then I never went back to it because I'm just build, go drive it before I put paint on it, and that's sort of, I don't go back and take pictures and post. If I was doing builds that were taking me, a few weeks, and I was doing them here and there, I would totally do it. But I don't stop. I just keep going.
I hear you. What is your best piece of advice for a scale newbie? Someone who's just starting out, but they're ready to run, plug the battery in, ready to go.
Drive it. So here. So you're an 06 guy.
Yeah.
So here. There's a hole in the bottom of that. Can you see the hole? Can you see the hole in the bottom of that?
I sure can.
So this is my third set for an SCX10 with a hole in the bottom, and I have 2 sets of AR60 from my Wraith with holes in the bottom. It's not because they're defective. It's because I've driven so much on the axles. I've worn holes through the bottom.
Right.
It's you gotta just drive. I see guys that show up and they're like, oh, I got this and I did that, and they've never actually driven their truck. And then once they calm down and they start to drive and you start to walk them through and you slow them down a little bit, I think people start to, listen a little bit more and go watch those people drive. Go to a comp and don't compete, and go drive your truck and just have fun.
Right.
Do that, but drive.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I've never actually worn all the way through a housing. So apparently you drive a whole lot more than I do. But That's one of the things I haven't gotten to do a lot over the course of the last year, and I miss it. But there was a time when I worked out of town and I would drive back past like the best place ever to crawl, and I'd stop every day. So every day, 20 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was, whatever I had, I'd stop and I'd run. And man, it got better fast. So
Yeah. You know, it's when you're driving a 1-1 or a 10 scale truck, Desmond, you're going to hit your pumpkin, and, you know, you're going to have to, you know, sometimes as hard as you try to take better lines, you're going to, if you drive hard stuff, I know Desmond likes to build scale trucks, and, you know, he drives easy, like he drives trails,
oh,
you know, but, you know, if he was out there and, you know, really trying hard stuff, then he would wear through some housings, maybe. All
nice.
seriously, though, I've been to some competitions, and some of my best competitions, the best times in my RC life is standing on a trail with Desmond, watching him run, and me on the same trail, and just being out there doing that stuff. It's just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. So let's talk about where you think the crawling community is heading in the coming years. What do you think's coming next? Where do you think we're going?
I think it's going to get simplified. So,
okay,
you still there? Yeah, I think it's going to get simplified.
Yeah, I'm still.
Less points. Yeah, less points. You're going to have a scale competition, guys, and a real competition. Lexan, carbon fiber, those types of things. And I think we have to get simpler. You know, I got to a point, you know, earlier in the year, and it was like guys were arguing over how much point one sand ladder was and how much points were two sand ladders, and could I back up here and this and that. I'm like, this is no fun anymore. I just want to drive my truck. You know, I go to a lot of different competitions, and I go to, you know, 3D printer competitions where it's all about your 3D printed accessories. I go to Winch Fest where they set up really hard gates and you get as many free winches as you want. I'm going to winch through them, and I'm not going to hit a gate, and it's going to take me a while, but that's what I'm going to do. Right. Or I go to the race competitions like Motorama, and it's, you know, you're racing, you're not winching. And those I love because I really get to drive and not winch. I mean, I built a truck to drive. I put a winch on it, but that's easy. Right. So I like the fast competitions the most. Nice. But in terms of where I think it's going, I think it's going to be a lot simpler with the rules. You know, I like the competitions that, you know, I went to a competition that the New Jersey Scale Off-Road guys did, King of the Castle, and it was, if you used your winch, it was 10 points. If you hit a gate, it was 5. Huh. It was amazing because it made you drive. Try to get around that gate. If you have to, hit the gate. We don't want you winching through this thing. Go drive your truck. And I love that. It was one of my favorite events. Yeah, I don't think I've ever driven an event where it was like that. That's an interesting concept. I think it would change my whole game plan. Like, I'd have to think about things a little differently. So what you go to a competition where you have to drive through that gate, and driving through it, even if you hit, you got a really good chance of getting through it. And even if you hit it, it's only 5 points. But if you winch through it, it's going to be worse. So if you flip over and you're upside down on the gate, okay, you're going to winch out of it, but, you know, or you really get out of control. But, you know, I thought that was a really neat twist on it. Right. No, it's definitely interesting. I don't even know what to make of it because I've never experienced it. So maybe I got to try it sometime. So I'm looking at the comments too. Matt, I would love to come to East Coast Scale Challenge, but there's no more tickets for people like me that didn't pre-register, so I don't think I'm going to make it out there. So that's where I'm headed next weekend, and I'm on the build crunch, man. Like, I spent all day building today. I got all day tomorrow. I got to get things put together, or I'm going to be out of time. But
So let's talk about, I only have two things left from you, sir, and then I'll let you get moving on with your evening. Do you currently have any sponsors, and why have you chosen to represent those companies if you do?
So I did the sponsor thing, and I had great respect for Ot6 and Mad Moose and a lot of Mad Mike, local hobby shops and a couple other companies that approached me. But at the end of 2017, I dropped all my sponsors, and I kind of go back and forth, and that's why I don't have a team. If I had somebody on a team for A&M Garage, well, their recommendation comes from a team member.
Right.
And that's great. But if the recommendation comes from somebody that didn't get a deal on a part or just is out there just saying, yeah, this stuff is good, I think that holds a lot, holds more weight. No, I like team drivers. I like that whole aspect. And they do a lot to, show people the tools or the product that may not have seen it before. And it's great advertising. And it's, as long as the people are respectful, it's a great tool to have. But, I run Castle. I run Reefs. I run Vanquish. I run RC four-wheel drive is all my trucks now, pretty much.
Yeah.
These are the people that, that I kind of gravitate to. And if it's on my truck, I support you. And I will stand here and say, I ran my yellow truck up the side of a mountain, and I ran a Power Hobby battery, and I killed it. And that little 75C 3S 2200 battery, I ran through a bunch of them. And they were awesome. They handled everything. My Castle ESC and motor were terrific. Baskins with his winch controllers. Jonathan Baskins makes some of the most amazing electronic stuff. It's just really cool to see what he's doing. So, RC four-wheel drive, like I said, I'm a huge fan of. It's a motor forward dropped setup. It's a competition chassis. And with JEC Parts, you can do amazing things with it. So, if I got him on my truck, I support him, and I don't need to be on a team. That's just kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, no, I follow you. I like asking that question because there's so many different variations on how people view all of that. I think that your perspective was interesting, that you feel that if it comes from a team driver, like the recommendation, then it doesn't carry as much weight. And I think there are a lot of people out there that feel that way. But the flip side, like, putting myself with the people that I've chosen to accept team driver status for, like, I only did that because that's what I believe in and want to use anyway, and already was using.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That's all. Like,
it's that you hit it from a different perspective when you come out as a team driver and you say these are the tires. Like Ot6, when I saw KLRs come out, I ordered them and I ran them. Yeah. And then I became a team driver not too long after because I ran the product. Yep. I believed in it, and that's why they asked me to be a team driver, and it was great. It was a great relationship, and I ran their stuff. So, I think there's positives to being team drivers and having team drivers and just having people out there that run your stuff and promote it. So I've done that side of it. Now I'm doing this side. Maybe next year I'll change.
Yeah, who knows? I don't have any plans on changing where I'm at, but like I said, I aligned myself with stuff that I believed in. That way I didn't have any issues with all of that. So that was my plan. But
I know a lot of the sponsor guys, and they're all good.
Yeah. What should we expect to see next coming from you and from A&M Garage and all of that stuff?
More parts. I got a lot of people asking me for, the A&M Garage parts that we're doing. The sliders for regular wheelbase we have. We're going to do sliders for a long wheelbase. We're going to try to do sliders and body mounts for an SCX10 to put RC four-wheel drive bodies on, the hard bodies, either the Blazer or the Mojave bodies. Try to get into that. So we have a few things. And then I'm going to start mixing laser cut metal with the fabrication. So setting up more jigs and building more production parts, but doing more of the hands-on stuff. Yeah. There's tons of guys that do bumpers and things like that, but I'm going to try to do a couple of things just a little bit different. Yeah. A Datsun Truggy, as Desmond said. But I think other than that, look, I try to, do a lot of things for the kids, and a lot of giveaways, and my kids are always involved, and I'm always part of that. You know, I got Dan kind of hooked on this, I think, and if he's still watching, he'll say something. Dan from Vanquish sent me a note and asked me to build him a truck, which I thought was really cool. I was really honored.
Yeah.
So he asked me to build him a truck. When we got down to it, he said, "How much for the truck? Whatever it is, just let me know." And I said, "Here, look, you can do a lot more with your connection with Vanquish. What I want you to do is, I'm going to build you a truck. You take a bunch of Vanquish parts and give them to a kid. Go to an event and just give them to a kid. Blow some kid's mind. Like, how cool would that be?" So
That's
Dan was
awesome.
going to K&K. I was going to K&K. Dan showed up with a one-off set of wheels, 5 Vanquish wheels, one-off set. There's only one set.
Yeah.
He had him with him, and I'm out there and I'm looking around, and I see a kid he's 10 years old, and he's running with all the adults. His motor is smoking. His ESC is about to burn out. His servo is barely working, and he's out there in the rain working. He's trying to get his truck through. And I grabbed Dan. I'm like, "We got our guy." And we went out there, and Dan stopped him, introduced himself, and said, "He built me a truck, and I'm going to give you a set of one-off wheels." And that was the coolest thing ever. And I think what was better about it, because I said to Dan, something's going to happen when you do this. And it it went from Dan giving him a set of wheels to the guys in the back that were watching the whole thing. The next day, he had a motor, an ESC, a servo. He had a chassis. He had all of the stuff, almost a full truck. And It was really neat to see everybody, all the vendors come out and really hook this kid up. And like the pinnacle was then he won a door prize. He got a full bouncer cage. Like that was his door prize that he won. So this little kid that just got all this stuff given to him, he gets this thing, this cage, and he picks it up and he goes over and he gives it to another kid.
That's awesome.
I was like, I was blown away. So I was really happy to be involved with that. It worked out really cool. So I like to give away stuff to kids and families and that sort of thing. So we're going to try to do a lot more of that this year.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's a great story. If anybody didn't watch this till the end, that's a shame, because that story is totally worth the whole interview. No, that's
the rest
awesome.
of it sucked. I know, it wasn't that good.
No, that's not what I meant. I just meant like those are the things that when I do this, like that's the stuff that I think is important, that you guys know that it's important to bring kids into what's going on. It's important to be positive. It's important to spread positivity and be helpful and support the people who are coming into our hobby. And that was one of my goals behind this whole interview all these people thing in general, was make them real people, because you are real people, make you all approachable. And so then when people are seeing you at events, they feel like they know you and they cannot like just be intimidated and come up and talk to you. Because I've seen people be intimidated of bigger name people before, and that's not what it is. So
yeah, you walk up and you see the guys from SBG or any of these other companies, Cody from CBE, Jonathan Baskins, Dan Wilson. You see these guys. I mean, Dan won an axial kit and he gave it to a kid. Mike Durstein was there from RC 4-Wheel Drive, and they gave away stuff, and a bunch of kids got stuff. Like all that stuff was so cool, and they're just great people. They just want to do stuff for kids.
Yep. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. I just like that people are doing good things in our hobby and spreading it around and helping support everybody. And that I think is one of the draws for me to exactly what we're doing here, is that it's a positive place to be. And I think that it's hard to always find that in the world today. And it's awesome that the crawling community tends to be more in that direction. Some stuff happens here and there, but for the most part, it's a very positive, supportive place to be. So.
Yeah, yeah, somebody mentioned GCM there. Yeah, 100%. Those guys are the best.
Yeah, I love those guys. They're awesome to talk to. But they do, because they have such a strong internet presence, they come across as a little bit intimidating before you go talk to them too, which they're not at all. Super down to earth, like great guys. So
Yep.
all right, man. Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to let you go and then close out the show. But I want to thank you for being on. I enjoyed every minute of our conversation, and I appreciate it. So,
yeah, I enjoy this too. I love what you're doing. This is great. Like I said, the some of the 1-1 stuff, having a tech tip session with somebody that's like a Red Dot or a UC Fab or one of those guys come on and talk about what they're doing in the race world, or I'm sorry, in the 1-1 world with with some of their crawlers. I think that would be really, really cool to see.
that would be super cool, and I will work on how exactly I'm going to get in touch with someone in that world. So we'll see what happens.
Very cool. All right, man. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. I'm going to close you out, and I'll let you go. See you later, man.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys, that was Burt Melchner of A&M Garage. If you haven't been to his Facebook page, go over and check it out. It's full of great goodies. He does have some of the bolt-on stuff like he was talking about, but lots of stuff with cool custom builds and so on and so forth. Additionally, let me talk about some of the things that are coming up in the future. Next week, I'm doing a live at 9:45 from the East Coast Scale Challenge. All of the details have not been ironed out. I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing, but I can guarantee you that I will be talking to Matt and Ed, who are putting on the event, and there will be a bunch of surprise guests as far as I can tell, and we will see exactly who shows up, how and why and when. Next week. It should be a really good episode, so if you're not at East Coast, you should definitely tune in and check it out. And if you are at East Coast, you should stop by and see us, because we'll be doing the show at the Pavilion where all of the giveaways and stuff like that go on. To summarize everything that's going on here, thank you for watching Live 945. I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. If you're watching over on YouTube, give me a like, hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate that as well. That way you'll get notified on anything that comes up over there. Check out my Facebook page, Van Ord Customs. Check out my Instagram, VanOrd_Customs, and the webpage, VanOrdCustoms.com. And lastly, the YouTube channel. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I genuinely appreciate it. I will see you guys all next week live from the East Coast Scale Challenge in Newcastle, PA, and we'll go from there. Any more scale garages? Sorry, I just got that at the end. Yes, but not at the moment. I've got a lot of work to do to make that happen. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Let's close this out by saying that if it wasn't for all of you guys tuning in, it'd just be me talking to a camera, and no one wants to see that because it's really boring. So thank you all very much. I'll catch you guys all next week from East Coast Scale Challenge in Newcastle, PA.